All right, so today drove down to Florida from North Carolina to do a demo at Alafaya at AJ's bike shop for a pivot demo they're doing. So I'm out of breath. I just rode 30 seconds on this thing and I freaking love it. It is awesome. So I wanted to do the SL AM versus the AM or the LT because I currently had, well, I just sold my LT mainly because it was an awesome bike, Gen 2 LT with the Shimano. I spec'd it how I normally would, loved the bike, but it was just so big and cumbersome that it kind of took away the fun on the descents. And where it flew uphill like a rocket, you always felt like you had to be cooking and going really fast. So like in Hickory on my local trails, it might not have been the most fun because it's just not maneuverable. Going to Canoga, obviously getting up was really easy, but then going on the descent, I didn't have the trust because I've had some pretty crazy crashes on e-bikes because they just, when you fold them, they just lose it. So I really wanted to try something that was more like my Firebird. And geo-wise, lengthwise, this is more close. It is probably like a little over 40 pounds versus my LT, which was like 50. So already, I love this thing. I think they said it has 4 modes. So right now it's off. That's eco, mid, top, and then this is race mode. And I have just been running it in green, and it is like just enough power. And like I'm in Florida, so it is flat, but like just enough where you can get a pedal crank to do like a little cool trail feature, but you don't have to put in so much effort. You just do 1 or 2 quick things and it's just so smooth and easy. There's some like tight, awkward turns that it just feels like it flows, where the LT would be a little bit harder to kind of get through. So yeah, sold the LT recently. My plan is to get this. I just wanted a demo before I buy one, but obviously you can't tell from 30 seconds, but I really like this thing. It's got the Bosch SX, which I think is like, I don't know, 50 Newton meters or whatever, and battery's like 400 watts. Like, I don't really care about that stuff. I just wanted to ride and feel like a regular bike with a little bit of assistance, and I think that's what this has got. I can try to do a quick little slam test to see if it's rattly. Sorry, I'm holding my phone. I mean, that sounds a lot like my regular e-bike too. Like nothing too noisy there. So I think it's decently quiet. I don't hear anything, but I'll keep recording on the GoPro and let you know. But yeah, I love this thing. 160, 150. I'm used to the Firebird, which is 165 in the rear, 170 in the front, and this doesn't feel like it's losing travel. Geo I like. But yeah, like even at Canoga, I would personally rather ride my Firebird up, which is like, I'll sometimes do 20 miles there. And like sometimes I would take my LT and my enduro bike, and I would rather do that enduro bikes. Like, and I don't mind the climb, so if I can kind of have something that gives me a little bit of boost up the hill, this is awesome. All right, so trying to figure out kind of the settings. I'm having a little bit hard time with the cockpit, but that's okay. I'm just trying to figure out the lever angles and stuff. I run a kind of weird one, but this is eco mode, 0 idea where I even am on the trail. I think actually there's a cool trail over there the other way, but let's just run this. But like instantly gives you just enough power off the top, and like I said, I'm even in the middle setting, or like the easiest eco, and I mean it just freaking flies. See, stuff like that that's a little tighter is hard to do on an LT just because it feels bigger. Man, this thing holds just speed like crazy though. No idea what any of this is. I think the other thing that kind of helps this bike too is I'm a bit lighter of a rider. Oh, washed out. I'm 150, so I think I can also get away with riding something like this. I think if you are heavier and you're riding to where you need the assistance, a bigger bike would make sense, but 150 and I like a pedal, I think this works for me pretty good. See, all those would take so much energy on my other bike. Oh, All right, so you're probably gonna hear a little bit of the motor now, but this is still an easy. This middle has a bit more assistance. Yeah, I mean, I think the bottom two are pretty good, but I mean, obviously a little slam, you'll hear the motor a bit, but nothing bad. It's not so rattly where it's bugging me or anything. All right, so I think this is where there's a bit more cool stuff, but I don't really remember. I don't even know how to get into it. Yeah, I think it's a little bit more of the kind of awkward climb. Yeah, all right. So this is very Florida-esque, choppy hill climb. So still in the easy mode, I just dropped down a ton of gears and it was super easy to do that. Yeah, super easy to pick it up, move it around. So stuff like that is super easy where it's like the weight of a normal bike, not too throttly, so you can kind of just stay on line a bit easier with stuff like that. So like even pedaling uphill like that, I'm not gonna blow too much traction because sometimes on regular bikes, I feel like you start cranking and the Newton meters just pick up on a torque and you just spin out, but super easy to maintain your traction like that. I'm able to just fight with that one. Before, I feel like the bike would whiskey throttle and I probably would have gone over the edge. That's kind of one of the cool lines. Super sandy. Don't need to crash a demo. But yeah, like a tight turn, not that I'm going fast, but like it just feels so much more easy to kind of maneuver it through. Oh, you know what's coming. But yeah, it's so easy to maneuver through here. My God. The other big bike, I'd have to be fighting like not to like whiskey throttle through there. And I need that torque. What's this line? It's kind of cool. Whoop. Piece of cake, dude. But yeah, stuff like this is so much easier. Because if you go up too fast on LT, you kind of fly off. More of like a flat flow trail. I'm in the red one, which is I think like the third highest behind race. And like, this is where I wouldn't like the e-bike, is it's flat. You're gonna hit above 20 really easily. So right now I can still pedal and sprint this, where I feel like I'm on a Firebird, but it's fun to like still push in and sprint, because on a big bike, you're like, oh, it's so slow, this sucks. I'm sprinting 50 pounds. Whereas like the Firebird, you'd be like, this is awesome, but you get tired quicker. This, if you need a quick rester, you coast, slow down, a few more sprints, and it just feels really nice to kind of have that, not a huge heavy bike.
So to summarize my experience riding the SLAM and also comparing it to my prior Shuttle LT, I guess starting with the Shuttle LT, ultimately the reason I sold it is I just felt like it was just a tank of a bike. Wheelbase, I believe, and weight was the hardest thing for me to kind of work with. And I don't know if it's just because I'm a smaller rider, like weight wise, or if it's just the way I had the bike set up, or the like. I think probably something like that. But I felt like on flatter trails, you'd get up to speed really quick, and it would just slow down really fast. Like that, you would just be sprinting a 50-pound bike because you'd probably get over the 20 miles per hour, and the motor would just shut off. And you'd be pedaling, sprint it, coast, kind of maybe take one flat turn, lose your momentum, and then have to sprint again. So I felt like on my local trails, I was always having to sprint and just do so much effort. And then say for a place like Cayuga that has like good flow trails, that's faster, has really fast tight berms, I felt like on the faster flow trails, like it just didn't have the same speed as a analog bike because of the weight. And then on tighter turns that were like say a 180 berm, I just felt like I had more issues just kind of getting it through the berm at a good fast pace. And then say if I was riding something steep, I felt like I would be braking and the bike would just kind of just roll down the hill, brakes would get locked out, and I was just along for the ride. I wasn't really in control. So it's not a great feeling to have on a 50-pound bike when you're going down something steep, not being in control. And it's even like locking out just the rear wheel and trying to steer with the front, like it didn't feel great. So I think the bike was great. It was the Shuttle LT Gen 2 Shimano. Like it was a really good bike. I just think the weight and the size was just hard for me to get along with. So that's kind of why I started looking at like the lighter weight, mid-weight e-bikes. So SLAM really was like what I was kind of like looking for in a bike, and I'm happy I sold my LT because the SLAM was, I think, a little over 40 pounds just reading it on paper, but it did feel like it maneuvered better, it carried its speed better. When you did have to pedal it and you were over 20 miles per hour, it didn't feel slow. I really liked that it did carry its speed at a coasting like speed, and you didn't have to like do a bunch of extra crazy work or leg work. It just kind of held its speed. Maneuvering through tighter berms was fine. Getting through awkward sections was good. Yeah, and my experience was riding in Florida, which isn't everyone's, I guess, like case. But like if I had to compare riding to Florida versus my local trails in North Carolina, I still think it would be a good bike because my local trails might be a bit flatter. There might be some areas that slow down and you need to sprint, and I think that bike would be good there because it's going to carry its speed quicker if you do have to put down some pedal power to get over 20 miles per hour, and then if you do surpass 20 miles per hour, you're not hauling a bunch of dead weight. I think also for bigger rides, when I go with my local shop, not everyone that I ride with has these massive 800 watt batteries. Some of them have lighter ones, so even when I ride with them, I notice I get dropped so easily just because I feel like my bike just isn't as nimble for what we ride, and it's just a little bit harder for me to maneuver through the trails that we're on. So I think the SLAM is exactly kind of what I'm looking for out of an e-bike. It's just something that's more maneuverable and something that rides more like a regular analog bike.
All right, so just finished riding the Shuttle SLAM. I have 3 bars left, which is really good. I stayed obviously mostly in like the first mode, which is like the green one, not too much the blue, the one higher, or red. So I felt like it had a lot of power just like in the green mode. Like it just gave me enough extra boost. So I felt a lot more like a normal bike when you needed power, like pedal, the power is there, and it gave you a good enough assistance. So my Garmin kind of crapped the bed on me, so I think I did maybe 10 miles, only used 2 bars. Granted, it is Florida, but like if you're doing a bigger pedaling day, obviously you're gonna probably struggle with bigger bikes, but if you're by yourself, you can really just, you know, throw that in the low mode because I felt like that was, if I was playing uphill, I'd probably go up 1 or 2 modes. I definitely think the biggest drawback would be the motor size, because I think like the TQ is 500 and this is maybe 400, so definitely need a range extender. But other than that, I mean, it did what exactly I was hoping for it to be, like more like I'm on my Firebird, and it wasn't like a rocket ship. I felt like it was just like I was much more fit and could just instantly go faster, and just I had more speed going into everything. It was more nimble. I could take kind of weird inside lines, hop over tree roots, pop it, jump it. If I got, like, the biggest thing I didn't like is on steep downhills, I feel like you just hold the brakes and the brake just slides down the hill and you have no control. This, if I got messed up on a downhill, I could actually put my foot down, hit the brake, stop, and I didn't feel like I was just gonna roll off the hill. Like, I felt like I had a lot more composure. Even uphills, I felt like I had more traction because it wasn't as throttly. Like, even though you had to put in more work to maybe get over something and you're in like a really, like a lot of tension, I didn't just instantly spin out on you and break traction. And I felt like it was actually better on traction because it just slowly worked its way up. So I definitely am a fan. I'm definitely going to want to try to eventually get this bike because it bridges the gap perfectly from like a trail bike to this bike. I definitely like this more than my LT just because it's more nimble.